Good morning. Let's have a look at yesterday's Champions League. In hindsight, there was possibly a couple of plays, but it's just trust issues, really, when you're dealing with the likes of an Andorran side and a Maltese side, having to rely on them. It's the red cards I'm talking about, of course. Now, I suppose with the value of hindsight, this would have been an excellent late play. And that pretty much sums up trust in an Andorran side. They couldn't even score, as it was an own goal against 10 men. But arguably, we're looking at the first leg result. I think it was 1-0 to 2-1 to Balkany. So add the red card in, possibility of laying the late draw, and the hope that the side with 11 would get the goal, which indeed they did. But let's fast forward to a month's time, and we'll be dealing with Premier League teams, Serie A, Spanish La Liga, Portuguese Primeira Liga, Greek Super League, Danish Super League, Turkish Super League, lots of Super Leagues. We won't be dealing with trying to rely on UE Santa Coloma from Andorra. Elsewhere, HJK just fell flat on their backside. This was another example in this particular early qualifiers of the market getting this absolutely wrong. In both legs, this is a problem we have as traders. The market will get it right with the Premier League, Spanish La Liga, Italian Serie A, etc. This is a fat-ass guess because you're not going to be meeting a Lithuanian side every day of the week. How on earth do you gauge? Obviously, they're very capable, or HJK over-thought by the market makers. Another example here of a red card and the possibility of an equaliser, but again, it's trust issues, isn't it? With a Maltese side, they did get the goal. Again, 89th minute, so arguably could have laid the late draw there because of the need for a win. Elsewhere, well, 2.4 the favourite, 1.13. Didn't need to win Sedgler, and it was one I was eyeing. They did concede first against Flora Tallinn, and this is the problem we have with second leg affairs, when the first one was so completely one-sided. They simply don't need to win. They can afford a 0-4 defeat and still go through. Steaua Bucharest, job done. Well done to the new Saints. Shamrock Rovers with a red card, depending on the timing of the red card. Well, 74th minute, so most of the good work was done prior to that. And I did mention this Kenny in the research, so if you did pick that up, well done. Scotland as well. Let's bring up the Scots League Cup. Was there anything doing there yesterday? You have to take your initial cues off the market and the starred matches, which were the obvious plays. And as you can see, they did rather go the way of the market there. Dundee, exactly what you expect. 3-0, 3-1, any other home score. And as you'll see in this new season, we've got something called the 20-minute rule for these shorties. I tend to employ it mostly in league matches rather than League Cup. But if it's 0-0 after 20 minutes in a match featuring a 1.2 favourite or lower, back 1-0, 2-0, anyone quoted in the half-time score market, and you will pick up near double-figure returns. So don't forget that, coming up to the new season. But on the corollary, what happened here? This is the tightrope we walk in playing cup matches. Big surprise there. But was there any play we could have made? Any decision making would have had to be in-play stats based. This was the ideal entry point if you were to play. 52nd minute, of course. Very near to the first half. Both teams to score no would have got you out of here with a break even. So once we get the live chat webinars up and going, I will answer your questions. What do you mean by both teams to score no? And what do you mean by averaging down? well, it's best viewed in a live environment via a live chat webinar, which will be resurrecting once August returns. That would have been a possible loss there. All dependent on the in-play stats. We've got Hamilton and Sterling. That was 0-0 for 1.29. Don't forget, draws are in play in cup matches. 1.22 again, just getting a draw at full time. The draw is in play. So, messy coupon, really. Tennis-wise yesterday, let's have a look at what my starred players did. That's how I'd enter this no man's land between Wimbledon and the long break to the US Open, because they're not even playing on US Open surfaces at the moment. So this is just filling in the gap between Grand Slams. So I like playing the pre-Grand Slam tournaments, but only on the Grand Slam surface. So at Wimbledon, you're looking at grass. It's hardcore, outdoor hard, I think, when it's the US Open. And this is being played on clay. Montero, I expected him to do the business here. Muller, well, again, big possible loss here. 103rd. This is the problem again. We're getting outside of the Grand Slams, where 1.14 shots in the Grand Slam is normally a world top 10 player. 103rd in the world. There must be a reason why he's 103rd in the world. Certainly 1.14. Makes it very untrustworthy. This Nagel, I did have a good feeling for, and he did win in 2. That's what I like to see. Rafa as well. That's what I like to see. The players I pick out winning in straight sets, because it does suggest to me that if they did have a spot of bother losing the first set, they could fight back in the second. But they all look to be rather comfortable yesterday. Even Stan the Man. No, he lost the first set, won the second. That would have been a play yesterday. Swiss, famous Swiss player in Switzerland. Elsewhere, 1.53, lost the first set, won the next 2. I would have got involved with that. Zhang, 1.67, nearly lost the first set. And Rune. So this tactic of just picking out matches which I think are more readable is working. These favourites which I've picked out are winning, which is good for trading. Because if they lose the first set, we're hoping that they fight back. Chloe Paquet, normally very backable at 3.5 to 4s. She delivered in front of her French fans. Very good player, this. She's got a bit of bite about her. You remember David Ferrer, the old ankle biter, the terrier? I think this Paquet is one of those. She will look at that. You don't want to mess with her. Blimey. Don't mess with the mighty Paquet. It's a hell of a stare she's got going. Petra Martic, expected her to win. Zheng, expected her to win. So I think a good selection. But it would have been frustrating had I done a trading session, because a lot of the picks didn't deliver. Or, sorry, did deliver. Let's have a look at today's football. And again, it's probably going to be quiet from me. I don't like these early qualifiers, even though it's the second leg. As you can see, in a number of occasions, particularly with HJK Helsinki market, getting it woefully wrong. So we've got question marks about the odds-on favourites here today. Crusaders against Carnarvon. How on earth do you gauge these two countries and their respective teams? Well, let's have a look at the research, because some of the research yesterday did nail correct scorers, etc. Slovan Bratislava, very familiar name. 2-goal deficit, though, Struga. 4-2 defeat, so both teams did score. But I would expect of Slovan Bratislava here today, very familiar name in European competition, expected to go a little bit deeper. Over 2.5 goals are possible. Struga scoring in her eight consecutive matches, must score today, must score 2 goals, ideally without response. Differdanga and Klaksvik. So So Differdanger, I think, are from Luxembourg, Klaksvik, maybe Icelandic or Faroes, I would suggest. Let's have a look. Kai took a commanding lead in the first leg. Right. 2-0 victory for Klaksvik. So the market has done an HJK and backed the favourite to overturn. But HJK didn't turn up yesterday. How about Differdanger? And this is the trouble we have. This is not Bayern Munich. It's a Luxembourg side we know very little about. We don't know their strengths or weaknesses. They've an unbeaten streak of 17 home matches, but that doesn't matter because it's localised to their country. Batumi. So in this particular match, we've got a 2-goal deficit. We've got a side in Klaksvik who have scored 2 goals against Differdanger. So possibility of both teams to score today and a competitive match. More competitive, I'd suggest, than a 1.67 quote. Ludogorets, very familiar name again in European club competition. 3-1 win against Batumi from Albania, I think. So Batumi must score the first 2 goals, ideally, in this particular match. Batumi scored 4 first-half goals in the last 6. Again, these matches really don't make any great appeal unless there's an emphatic in-play stats angle. Ignatia against Borac Banja Luka, 2.4 the favourite. 1-0 win for Borac. So it's wide open. And that suggests it's wide open as well. Ignatia must score the first goal. Larne and Rigas. Larne, I think, from Northern Ireland. 3-0 win from the first leg for Rigas. The Northern Irish outside of their comfort zone here, you'd suggest. It's another one of those matches which isn't a must-win for Rigas, even though they look by far the better team. It's not a must-win. It's a must-not-lose 3-0 or higher. They can afford a 2-0 defeat today, Rigas, and still go through. So do make a note of that. They do, at least based on the first leg, look like the better team. And that's it for the Champions League today. I'm not sure we have much else. We've got the Conference League. We're dealing with the Faroe Islands, Northern Ireland and Wales, Derby. Oh boy. Nothing else doing at the moment. I think those were the only matches of importance today. I won't be prioritising them, I'm afraid. I'm preparing myself for a real run in August to April, which I will be inundated with work. And the quality of football will be far, far better. Looking at today in the tennis, we've got some very familiar names. Casper Ruud, this is what we like to see. Watch out for South Americans and Spanish on clay. It tends to be a surface they're brought up on. So Carballes Baena, watch out for Montero, might give Casper Ruud something to think about. Kotov, let's have a look at the rankings. 60th against 130. This is the problem we have now. Outside of the Grand Slams, odds-on favourites are pretty highly ranked, or badly ranked, shall we say. Rublev, is he going to beat himself up with a tennis racket today? Absolutely imploded in his match at Wimbledon against Comersano. There were some extenuating circumstances. The first was a stomach upset for Rublev. Must have had some Thai street food, I would suggest. But he did give us a possibility of a decent trade, Rublev. But this Comersano, he's caught him on a good day. Comersano was caught on a good day, rather, Rublev. So, as an odds-on favourite, playing against a South American who will like clay is potential watching brief, or rather laying the mercurial ginger fella if he wins the first set. At least you get low odds. You're going to stick with Foggy. Compo and Clegg are really enjoying Foggy's pre-retirement runaround. Excellent at Wimbledon. Won yesterday, straight sets, or the day before. Echeverry and Van der Zwijnslop 32nd in the world. I don't have a strong opinion here, I'm afraid. Stefanos Tsitsipas, very familiar name. Struff, very familiar, but more accomplished on grass. Struff. In Hamburg, let's have a look. Local lad, Zverev, has had an excellent run since the French Open. It takes a big name to lose him, to beat him. Maxwell Marta, as another German in Germany, might give Karen Dulu something to think about. 33rd in the world. So he's obviously the better ranked player there. We're heading off to America now. Any familiar names here? We've got two Americans playing each other. Might see a three-setter. Harris got two tiebreaker wins yesterday. There's lots of Americans, of course. Chris Eubank, very poor at Wimbledon. I wonder if he'll can resurrect his grass court at Newport. Vukic, I like Australians, particularly when they're favourite. They just give 110%, cover every blade of grass. Girard, 46th in the world against Benoit Paire, who looks like a hipster who owns a cereal cafe in Shoreditch. But Girard, an American, favourite in America. As far as my research will go there, looks good. Avanesian, familiar name, 75th. Again, that's the problem we're facing. Favourites who are not that well ranked. Two familiar names meeting each other. It'll be interesting tomorrow to see if this went to a three-setter or indeed if the favourite winning the first set was vulnerable second set. The odds are tight enough. The rankings are awful. So it could be a three-setter. Andreeva, familiar name in Palermo. So plenty of ladies football, plenty of tennis, but more so because this is brand new to me, really. Trading outside of pre-Grand Slam tournaments, playing in the old day-by-day slog of ATP and WTA ranked events. So it's a completely different vibe to it. These players are not busting a gut as they would in the Grand Slam. But it'd be interesting to see. I'll certainly be up for the early kickoffs in the Champions League, but I can't promise you any players. You saw yesterday at the market getting some of these woefully wrong. Woefully wrong, 1.25. Red card did affect Balkany, arguably. Did concede first, so could have got the win, but 5-0 from the first leg made it difficult to trust. That was the only one they got right, really. Steaua Bucharest, did they score before half-time? 1.04, yeah. That's what we're talking about, the 20-minute rule. This would have nailed you something like a 7 or 8 to 1 win. So, Telegrammers, I might see you throughout the day, starting at 4 o'clock today. And if there is any tennis of interest, there's very familiar names. But as I say, this is not a pre-US Open tournament, pre-Grand Slam tournament event, because they're not even on the right surface. So I've got to be very wary about this. I think my method of playing pre-Grand Slam tennis tournaments on the same surface, of course, as the Grand Slam, pays dividends because these players are trying to give up their all. And we'll know how good they are on the particular surface. I will be keeping a tentative eye out. And if there is a strong play, such as Medvedev is a set and a break up, for example, that would interest me. So have a great day. I hope to see you throughout the day on Telegram. And don't forget, we are here the 3rd of August. Only near enough 2 weeks away from the start of the season proper. Championship begins. Premier League, Italian Serie A, Spanish La Liga, German Bundesliga. This is when we start going football crazy. We're going to see a severe upturn in trades and interest from me. So I hope to see you throughout the day. Have a great day.